Hey, greetings YouTube, Performance Reviews here, where I give you the reviews from the technician's point of view. And today is going to be a maintenance video on either a Miele SEB228 or a EBK 360 by Wessel Werk for your Central Vac. This one is for my Central Vac. And the difference between the two necks, because I get it all the time, are the headlight, between the two heads. Headlight and the neck. The Central Vacuum uses a different type of neck than the Miele. You could interchange them, but it would basically be the same cost as getting it from Miele or getting it directly from Wessel Werk. So really no reason to do that. This machine, almost 4 years in my house. Actually, it's almost exactly 4 years. I interchanged it and took the Miele pedals and put them on here. Other than that, it's been my daily beater for the most part, except for a few vacuums of the month and things like that. And you can really see the wear that's on here. And this is the older style, which I wanted, which had the brush roller that is like blade shape versus completely round like the newer ones. So I'm going to share with you what my personal Central Vacuum nozzle looks like after 3 years, and you can see it could be better. So we're going to break it down, we're going to service it. It's probably going to go in the dishwasher. Now, first thing I want to show is this gross Kirby cake. And this is normal for it to build up, and it's not very thick. Again, that's like 4 years worth. I don't want to admit that it's been 4 years since I've been in the house. So it's normal, but it's kind of gross. So we're going to clean it up. So these are all T10s on here. And I have somehow lost my electric T10 driver. And you need really a small one for this guy. So I'm just going to be doing them all by hand. So maybe this is going to take longer than you'd like. So I'm just going to remove them all. And if they'll come out, great. If not, when you turn it over, they'll fall out. Ooh, maybe. That one does not. There you go. Sometimes debris and stuff gets stuck in them. So just keep in mind. What's interesting about mine is it doesn't say that it's made in China or Germany or the US or wherever it might be made. So when we open it up, I'll get to know exactly. They do make these in China now, and they're still extremely high quality. And that's what they're known for, is high quality at a decent price. Now, part of the reason I personally chose this nozzle, just to let you know, the 3 front screws are longer. Was because it's easy to push, and it's durable, and it's low maintenance. But the easy to push was the real thing on my soft carpet that I have in my house. So you can see there's a lot of debris in there. So I think it's gonna need to be cleaned out. And what better to clean out my Central Vacuum than with my Central Vacuum? Those exhibit fans know what I'm talking about. And you can see it's had some hard use. It's not the worst, not the best, but it's had some hard use. I'm going to set the height adjustment to the side. That's going to get cleaned by hand. We're also going to take the weights out because I'm going to wash it, and I really do not want them to be washed. Now we're going to remove a couple other things that you do not normally have to remove, like I'm going to remove this spring here. Right here, just set that aside, because again, I'm going to wash this. Now, one of the differences between the Miele and this one is this has, I'm not exactly sure how this is wired up, but it's very, very different than the Miele. There's basically no circuit board in here, like the Miele version. There's usually an additional board here. I'm not talking about the LEDs, of course. The Miele version doesn't have the LEDs at all. Maybe that's why it needs the circuit board. And that just comes out. So all of that will actually come out as one piece. So when we pull this apart, you're going to notice one thing I'm going to do. As I pull all this apart. So, pull the 2 screws off. This is one assembly. Going to pull the brush roller out. That is one assembly. You're going to pull the motor out, which was 2 more screws. We're going to pull the wheels out as well. Those will get washed, but not the axles. And I think every 2 to 4 years, this is probably a good idea to take these things apart and do that. Now I want to let you know on a little secret. When I first got this, I took it apart and I lubed the brush roller to make it quieter. And I took soap and put it on the belt again to make it quieter. Just a little thing I did. So it is actually still that tri-flow that I recommend on my channel. And I'll put a link below to all my tools and stuff. But that tri-flow really works well. So the fact that it's still lubricated is freaking amazing. So all that right here, this is going to get cleaned out with compressed air, and then everything else you see here is just going to go in the dishwasher. As you can see, I have washed everything very thoroughly using the dishwasher. If you don't have a dishwasher, you can hand wash most of this stuff. Now, if you're looking to support the channel or this video has helped you, there's a couple ways you can do that. Of course, we have Patreon, but there's another way that you can help us, and it also helps you. If you are looking for any of these parts, I'm going to put links to them in the description box to Amazon, and that benefits our channel a whole bunch, so it's a great way you can support our channel. I also have a link to common vacuum supplies as well. So let's go ahead and start putting this thing back together. I accidentally washed one of the springs, so that was my bad for doing that. So first thing we're going to do is put our weights back in here. Now I'll also have a link to this in the description box below. Also, when you're putting this thing back together, your friend is tri-flow. It's really important that you use a proper synthetic lubricant. It needs to be very, very light as well. So again, that will be your friend when you're putting this thing back together. There's a couple places where you use it. The bearings and then the wheels, both the bottom wheels and these wheels. It's pretty important to lube those up before you put them on. So let's go ahead and do that. You don't need very much on the wheels. A little dab will do you, as they used to say. So just, a nice little drop on the wheel. And this keeps the machine from squeaking or acting kind of funny when you push it. Really quiets the machine down. Now, this guy, you can put lube in him, but he usually is pretty well lubed. I don't really see a reason to lube this guy. You definitely want to make sure this is clean and that your spring and everything is intact, because this is your height adjustment as well. So this is something. it comes with like a little bit of grease and stuff on here. I tend to wipe that off. Again, I find that it sticks and creates more problems, at least in this dry climate. So what will happen is when I put this back together, you'll see there'll be a few places again that I will lube and show you. All right, let me grab that spring out of there. I'm trying to remember exactly which one goes where's. Always kind of, they're not the same like they are in the Miele. So you have two springs, and one of them goes on this guy right here. So let's just make sure I've got my springs in the right place. Yep, everything's going to touch right. Those are correct. So I'm going to put the height adjustment back together. And this I'll show you. We will put just a dab of oil on this, but again, no grease necessary. And just a dab of oil right there will make that move incredibly well for you, and again, reduce noise. Now, let's start putting the motor and the brush roller back in. The brush roller I've gone off and cleaned as well. You want to clean it in the ends really well, make sure there's nothing in there. As I said, you'll need a drop of Tri-Flow in these, and once you lube these, I found when I lubed this it was good for years, so assuming the same thing will happen to you as well if you use the Tri-Flow. If you use something that's like a petrol, it tends to dry out, and then you'll end up doing this a little bit more often. As always, I'm going to soap the belt. This quiets it down quite a bit. And it's just a little trick I learned when I fixed sewing machines. So I'm going to put that on there as well. And again, because of where the wheels are, they'll come off if you don't jack this up, but that makes this unstable. So just put a block of wood or two underneath there. It makes all the difference when you're putting this thing back together. Now you have this rubber piece that goes in here. We're going to go ahead and zoom the camera in a little bit now. This rubber piece can dry rot, so when we put this back together, a little bit of Pledge on there or your favorite furniture polish will keep that from happening. So that's a little pro tip as well. Sometimes you can lube the motor, sometimes they need lube. This one does not. Obviously I bought this new when I installed my Central Vacuum 4 years ago. It's just fine. So we're going to go ahead and put the belt around there. And slack in the belt is absolutely a-okay and fine. Don't worry about that. Go ahead and put this guy back where it belongs as well. Just kind of wiggle everything into place. Now, when we look at the screws, you're going to notice there are a couple long ones. Take them, set them aside. All these other ones, they're all the same, despite any discolorization that may have happened over the years. So we're going to go ahead and put those in. Let's put this a little bit more in frame for y'all. So we're going to go ahead and put these screws on here. We're going to snug them. We're not going to tighten them all the way. I'll explain that here in just a second. So one of the things that's missing from this head versus some of the other Wessel Werk designs is there's no tensioning wedge, which means you actually are going to tension, in this case, with your thumb here. So once you tension it, just applying a little pressure, we're going to put the T10 back on there. And now we're going to tighten these up, snug them up real good. That's better. Now everything's tensioned nicely. So that is how you set your belt and your motor tension on this style of nozzle. Again, it's a little different than some of the other things out there. Now, one of the things a lot of people hate is this neck and how this neck goes in, and I'll get to that in just a second. So we're going to go ahead and kind of put this cover on. We're not really going to go all the way. Obviously the neck's not in there, but I'm just setting the cover kind of in place. This helps us manage our wires. So now we're going to go and put the neck in there. I wanted to really zoom the camera in to show you where these wires go. They're pretty self-evident when you do it, but just keep in mind that they have their own little path they go in through there. And it's really important not to pinch these yellow wires. They might look thin, but they're actually really heavy-duty wires. They're rated to a much higher voltage than what we have here in the United States. So again, keep that in mind when you're doing this. And this is the part where everybody will get stuck if you're not familiar with this sort of nozzle. And boom. So that all falls back into place very easily. Again, making sure all of our wires are in place, which this one has decided to peek itself out of its position. So now it's all in place. Now you see these are for the longer screws, which actually go through all 3 layers of this. Now before you mess with any of this wire harness, now it's time to put our rear motor screws, or our top facing screws, in here. I like to start with this one first because it's kind of what holds everything all together. And then we have 2 of them that go on each side of the neck, like so. And just double check in here, swivel your neck, and you can feel it take up the wire slack a little bit. And that lets you know everything's in its place before you put in any more screws in. And if you have the Miele, of course, you have a circuit board here and you don't have this light. So it looks like this board kind of had a weird way they clipped it in. It's really kind of cool. So give me just a second to do that. Then it just kind of snaps in like that. Then you just want to kind of bend your LEDs in the right direction. Then with the rest of the wires, you'll see there's a space here for all these thingies to find their home right there. And they just all go in there like so. These 2 just remain loose like that. So that's where, and again, you want to tuck this yellow wire down in its place. So that's where you put all that stuff. And I actually have a little bit of hair left in there. Let's clean that off. Now, putting the pedals back. Again, I've got the Miele pedals on here. There's several of them. If I would put them back in the right position. There's several different pedals they've used on these, so yours might look a little bit different, but they're all eccentric and about the same. These will come with some grease from the factory. You don't have to grease them again. The part I'm going to grease is going to be ever so slightly right here. That's more than enough grease right there. Just a thin layer where this touches right here. And again, that's more for noise reduction than anything else. So with this guy, there's a couple things you can do. If it's really worn out, you can put some grease on here. Again, with the grease, we're not using a whole lot. There's not a whole lot you need. But it's basically just a little bit on the edge of this. Again, this is to smooth things out, but it does attract dirt. So again, keep that in mind as well. And a lot of this is really more to quiet things up than it is preventative wear and stuff like that with this. So we're going to put this on here. And you can see how this white wire just barely comes out of the way of the lock. Grab a Q-tip here and just anything excess, just wipe it off. So that is, and you can see how that will lock in place like so. You want to make sure this tab is A-OK too, and that your neck is in the down position. Let's put this all together now. So all that just fits in really nicely. Let's go ahead, set this aside, and now you see why the bench is carpeted, so this doesn't slide around and doesn't scratch anything when we do it. And I like to start with the center screw. You can start with whatever screw you want. If you do decide to use a drill with this, these front three don't. Just don't. These front three should only be hand tightened. All right. Now at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and make sure the front wheels are nice and clean. They didn't really get equal treatment in the dishwasher, so we're just going to go ahead and wipe them off by hand, like so. And now again, tri-flow, you'll just a little bit on the wheel axles, in between the E-clip and the wheels, keeps it from squeaking. And the nice thing about tri-flow is if it gets on your carpet, it's not going to stain your carpet black or anything like that. So that, and you can see the wheels don't squeak. That looks excellent. Let's just give it a little wipe off with some furniture polish. Oops. And now we're going to test the neck, buttery smooth. And our height adjustment should be buttery smooth as well, and that's really the important one. Now, if this video helped you today, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. If you just like watching us take things apart, definitely hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. If you really like what we're doing, again, links below to our Amazon store. And we do also have a Patreon if you really like what we're doing. And Patreon supporters get exclusive content. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.